I'm going to focus in on the coastal plain. We call it the Gulf or the Atlantic coastal plain, depending on which side of Florida we're on. But essentially in this map here, it's the areas there in green. So as green indicates, these are going to be low-lying areas, very low sea levels, very close to large water bodies. So in this case, the Gulf of Mexico or the Atlantic Ocean. Further, as the name implies, plain means not that they're average or in the way are plain white tees, but instead these are rather flat areas. So why are these areas rather flat? Well, a lot of it has to do with what's happened to this particular area, in the last 100 million years. And no, it's not so much that this area has been impacted by glaciers. In fact, glaciers never made it down this far south. So compared to the central lowlands and the Canadian Shield, here we have low-lying areas, lowlands, that are also flat, plains. They're also good for agriculture because they are flat and have a good amount of precipitation, humidity. But in the case of these areas, these were not formed from glaciers. So essentially what we got going on here is these are areas that were recently underwater. As global sea levels go up and down, which they've done before humans and will after humans, during humans, and so what we've got is this over time, it fluctuates. And so during some particular, thousands of millions of years, a particular area might be underwater, but in a few hundred, 1,000 years or a few million years, it might be above water. And this is very common, in this particular area of the world. So Florida, it's essentially what's happening is sea levels are rising. But they've done that before in Florida, and they'll probably go down in the future, and they'll probably go up as global temperatures go up and down. Now what I've done is I've taken the yellow line that showcases the Gulf and the Atlantic coastal plain, and we're going to see it over time. And so we begin 85 million years ago, and we can see much of this area underwater. And so anytime you're in an area underwater, of course, you're going to get sediments from marine, different aquatic life, fossils and organisms. Also, what you're going to do is it's going to be relatively flat. Unless we have plates colliding and we have a deep ocean trench, oftentimes water does a good job of smoothing and flattening areas, especially here in the Gulf coastal plain. This is why it got so flat, is because essentially it was the bottom of a shallow sea, what we call the continental shelf. And that same continental shelf we see today, if you look at an aerial as we'll go through, you'll look and you'll see the continental shelf extends off the coast of the Carolinas and Florida still to this day. However, it used to be farther inland, or what we see today, farther north, up there in Louisiana. So Louisiana is underwater. Well, 85 million years ago, it was completely underwater. So this is something to kind of think about as we go throughout the next millions of years. Now, 50 million years ago, because of cooling, we have now more ice and water stored on land, and so subsequently the sea level is going down. We have less water essentially in the oceans because the water is stored as ice on land. Now we fast forward to 40 million years ago, and 25 million years ago, as we can see, sea level's going down, and so subsequently it's exposed this Gulf and Atlantic coastal plain. But then now we have another warming period, so sea levels go back up. So some of that land that was just now exposed is now underwater again, and back and forth. To 3 million years ago, now we're starting to see, the Mississippi River and some of those key rivers. We're starting to see some of that same shape. In terms of Florida, starting to become more noticeable. Louisiana, the Panhandle of Florida, Texas. Now we're starting to see that shape that is today the Gulf and Atlantic coastal plain. And about 25,000 years ago, we can see a big, large continental glacier. And so subsequently, sea levels go down even more. Once again, more water being stored on land rather than stored as water in the oceans. And finally, today.